Christianity. And the first people they started to persecute were the Gnostics, because the Gnostics, and this is an idea that many who are committed to Christianity will find repulsive or very difficult to accept. The Gnostics said that the entity that we call God, Jehovah, as he is in the Old Testament, the Muslims called him Allah, it's the same entity, the God of Abraham. That this entity, the God of Judaism as well, of course, Jehovah, God of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, goes by different names, he's the same entity, but this entity isn't a God at all from the Gnostic point of view. From the Gnostic point of view, the simple word to describe him is a demon. He's a demon. And what he's done is he has convinced mankind that he is God. And he wants us to, because he's really a demon, not a God at all, he wants to bring out the worst in us. He wants us to behave in ways that cause fear and terror and hatred and division, because that's what he thrives on. That's what he grows on. He grows on that, the manipulation of hatred in humanity. And if you look at the statements and the actions of the God of the Old Testament, he is not a nice guy. The stuff he does, the mass murders that he's responsible for, the incitement that he delivers to his followers to engage in horrific acts occurs again and again. And you have to ask yourself, can this be a good thing? Can this be a good thing when he's telling us to go off and commit acts of murder in his name? And those acts of what I often say is, when you look at the three mainstream monotheistic faiths, all of them talk the talk of peace and love. But actually, if you look at the walk they walk, it's a walk of hatred and fear and suspicion. And it seems to me that there's a real chance that the Gnostics were right, and that the entity, that we have been hoodwinked by a supernatural entity, if you like, by a demonic entity who has persuaded us that he is God, made us act in his names. The crusades, the religious wars, the terrible divisions, the persecutions of members of other faiths that have occurred, all of that is not the action of a good and loving God. All of that is the action of a demon, and that's what the Gnostics said he was. They called him the demiurge, and they felt that he had representatives in the human race who disguised themselves as human beings, who were called archons, whose whole sole task was to mislead us further down the path of darkness and take us away so that we would never realize the divine spark within ourselves, and that a grand cosmic game is being played out here, at which the human race is the fulcrum, and the decisions that we make and the choices that we make are not only important to us, but are important to the whole cosmos. This is the center of the Gnostic idea. It's a very powerful idea, and I think it's an idea that merits further exploration.